Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website by, for, and about baby boomers. So, as you recall, last week we talked about life choices and truly setting our own goals and living a life guided by our passions. So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about our goals and recognizing how to recognize and nurture our life passion. And I think it's a really important topic. So, let's get started. But first, some context. This is being recorded the evening of February 23rd, 2022. I woke up this morning to learn that Putin had directed Russian troops to begin invading the Ukraine territory. Just think about that for a moment. Imagine if Mexico were much larger and tremendously more powerful than the US, and you woke up and found out that they were invading Texas and Southern California because they felt they were wrongfully taken many decades ago. The Wall Street Journal has been doing a really good job of putting faces on this horrid aggression. Showing how people's homes have been shelled and mortars are going off, how people have had to flee and leave everything to get away from the area where the invasion is starting. Now imagine yourself in such a situation. Think about what would really matter to you. Would it be football scores? Is your new car new enough? Is my iPhone too old to use because I got it last year? That I'm not happy because my hair is gray? I think we can all agree that in such circumstances, we'd be focusing, obsessing, totally driven, and by caring after other people and things that are really just totally precious to us. We would probably be thinking in terms of what to do next, how to maximize the next moments of our lives and the lives of everyone all around us. So why then? For most of us, in most cases, we have the luxury of living a reasonably comfortable life. You know, why do we fritter away our energy on the unimportant things in life? Life may not be perfect, right? It may not be ideal. We could think of things that are better, but it's generally safe, somewhat under control. But because we forget or might most likely get distracted from nurturing and living towards our own true passions, we kind of lose sight of what's really important. There's someone I follow occasionally. Her name is Sammy Marie Grimm. And Sammy summed it up as this: life passion is a form of self care. So think about that for a minute. Life passion, or just passion, is a form of self care. Sammy is a young woman that has a YouTube channel and also some multiple multimedia channels. And she's made her passion helping others who suffer from borderline personality disorder, which is something that she also is afflicted by. It's an illness of interest to me, and it's often stigmatized and misunderstood. So the sufferers often feel completely isolated and pretty much hopeless. If you read the literature on the subject, it ranges from it's a bad prognosis to it's just a horrible prognosis. It's not a fun thing to be involved with in any way. So Sammy, like I said, who is recovering from multiple misdiagnoses and has borderline personality disorder, decided that the best way she could help others was to speak openly and supportively to help other people in that same situation, to give them hope, to see how somebody can face it head on and make progress in it. And might say, well, okay, that's nice, but what has that got to do really with anything? Well, the magic in that statement is in her approach, and that applies to all of us. And it's that by recognizing, nurturing, and living her passion, and her passion was helping others, that she's not only caring for other people, but she's healing herself and helping herself live a life filled with purpose and gratitude as well. And that's really important. So now think of Sammy and the people in the path of the ongoing invasion in the Ukraine territory by Russia. And so what do they have in common? Both of them, by circumstance, were forced to absolutely focus on what really matters in life, right? There was no room for distraction. They had no other alternatives. So let's just think for a second about our own lives. Are we really focused on our passion? Are we even sure what our passion is? So now if we think of what our passion is, when was the last time we even checked in on it? Just kind of stopped by, had a little chat with it, said, hey, how's it going? How am I doing? Are we kind of getting closer? Am I really paying attention to you? When's the last time you evaluated where you were in life and where you are in relation to where you wanted to go? Because it's one thing to look at where we are and say, oh, things aren't too bad. But then when you look at what your dreams used to be, then it takes on a whole different perspective. Peru travel agents, or not travel agents, Peru Tourism Board. I'll have to see if I have the video saved somewhere. Had a really neat little segment encouraging travel to Peru. And it was a high power business person, and he's all wrapped up in high power things. And he gets this little envelope in the mail. And what it is a recording he made of himself like 20 years earlier on his trip in Peru. And I won't give away the whole thing, but it was just interesting. And I've done this, I think I mentioned before, done this on shorter time periods, like for 2 years, where I write myself a letter and have somebody else hold it and mail it to me in 2 years, and then check in and see, okay, so here's where I thought I would be in 2 years. How did I do? And it's really very enlightening. So if we don't check in on ourselves, who's going to do it for us? Because no one can really know what we want, what our passion really is, like we do ourselves. And if we want to inspire others, we have to be inspired ourselves. If we want to improve the world, we have to be willing to improve ourselves. No matter what we want to accomplish, the best way is to do it by example. So even something as ostensibly self-serving as, I want to be wealthy, or I'd like to be wealthy, right? The best way to attain that is by sharing our wealth and teaching others, because that attitude will tend to attract other like-minded individuals. And those people, you'll find not only material wealth, but also the wealth of friendship and the spiritual and emotional wealth of contentment. Even the simplest of things, when we share them with others, then what we find out is we get back not only the things that we were trying to attain, but so much more beyond that. So from last week, you can remember, we talked about, we can imagine what we can do with the future, or we can actually make a conscious decision right now in this very moment to start making the future the one that we want to live. Right? It's one thing to think about what we want to do. It's another thing to act upon it. And the acting upon it is what will bring us to reaching our goals and fulfilling our passion. Also, last week, we talked about how we can define our life in terms of fear of the unknown and living comfortably, right? But that's kind of living without passion. Passion, almost by definition, has some risk associated to it. We have to step a little bit outside our comfort zone to really do what's important to us. So we can define our lives instead in terms of personal satisfaction, or let's call it spiritual and emotional wealth, instead of monetary wealth. Monetary wealth is pretty easy, right? You can define where you want to be, and then you'll automatically kind of live to whatever level that is. And you can say, well, I just want to live comfortably, and you'll live comfortably. And so monetary wealth, all of society is set up to kind of focus us on monetary wealth. But if we really want to live our passion, that usually goes way beyond just getting some money together or getting a new car or something like that. That's really making life changes in ourselves and in the people around us. So that's really a lot harder to attain, and that takes a lot more focus and purpose. And the best way to get focus is to define what your passion really is. And then once you do that, once you rediscover your passion, then you'll find out that you can make every decision so that every step we take is leading us towards that place that we really want to go, instead of just wandering around and kind of entertaining ourselves with whatever's on TV tonight. We can really live to where we want to get to. So remember, don't be put off by the obstacles, because they're always going to be there, but most of them are they're created by our minds to try and keep us safe, but by what we perceive as a risk, right? And most certainly don't be put off by the criticism of others, because they're just taking and echoing what society has already told them. It's kind of like, oh, that person, they're weird. They drive an old car, but they spend all their time teaching kids, and they're missing the whole point, is that the person who lives that way probably is living a very fulfilling life and living towards their passion. So, there's nothing stopping you from reconnecting with your passion, kind of refining it and visiting with it every single day, actually, and envisioning it. So once you start to envision it, you'll find that it guides your every decision, and living your life in a way that really brings you to fulfillment and contentment. And, just it's a simple concept, but it's really easy to get distracted and lost in all the shuffle of everyday living. And I mean, I do this, I talk to people about this every day, and it happens to me. You get all wrapped up in all the little minutiae of life, and it pays to set some time aside every single day. And I have a slip of on paper on the wall with some motivating goals, I guess is a good way to say it, ideas and goals that I go through and I review every day. And it's kind of interesting because if you skip it for a couple of days and you go back to it, you realize kind of like, ooh, I didn't say that past couple of days, and I kind of let that slip away from my consciousness. So passion is something that, although it's inside you and has to burn deeply inside you, still you have to kind of bring it to the forefront of your own mind because a lot of things going on in the world that want to kind of distract you from that all the time. So the one last thing, of course, most especially, please keep everyone involved in this needless Russian-led conflict in your prayers and in your good thoughts, not only just the Ukraine people, but everyone who's in harm's way, because it really has worldwide implications. This isn't about one country just going around and inflicting, pain on their neighbor. This has worldwide implications, and far more countries are looking at this and probably will become involved if it's not stopped. So now's a good time to really think positive thoughts about that, and to try and keep everyone in your thoughts and prayers, please. So that's kind of it for the week. Passion leads the way. And thanks for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along. If not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week, and thanks for visiting. Of course, remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone, and see you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.